Hello and welcome to our video, The Principles of Ballroom Dancing. This will not be a video about steps or amalgamations, but it will be a video with all the information necessary to produce good ballroom dancing. And those informations apply to all variations if they are used correctly. Sammy Davis Jr. once said in the movie That's Dancing, you have got to learn the basics. Once you master the basics, there's freedom for the arts. Now we try to show you now the basics, the principles. And to bring that on the video visually for you is one of the world's foremost ballroom couples from Denmark, Brian Eriksson and Marianne Eichelt. Now here we go for the first chapter, which is about the balance. Now, as we all know, if you're balanced over your 2 feet, you can practically do everything. If you are not balanced, you can practically do nothing. The people in the ballet world practice hours every day to perfect their balance. Now we start with our individual balance and how we do achieve that. To achieve a long, stretched spine, we have a few exercises. One is we bend forward, relax, that gives you a nice feeling. And now we build up to erect our spine, vertebra by vertebra. Up and finish off with the head. Now we take a deep breath and relax the back muscles so we have the feeling that our bones structured like a house and the muscles are hanging like a suit on a dress hanger. Now we try to bring in our belly button, which I can show also from the side where you see this piece is flat. Now there is a balance line in the body. Basically, there are 2 balance lines, and I will show one balance line on Brian's body and one balance line on Marianne's body. Now, the one balance line I'm talking about is you watch the width of Brian's feet. This is much more narrow than the width of the hips. And the width of the shoulders is even wider. To create now a perfect balance line within the body, you will find we have from the big toe to the inside of the leg, the groin, and it ends up in the collarbone. That gives you the correct balance line. You could think about a pair of braces worn under a tay suit, which gives you an idea of the correct balance line. In any case, if you would think about foot, hip, and shoulder, he would already be off balance. So the inside is the correct line. Now I turn to Marianne and try to show a balance line which we can see from the side in the profile. Now we have the big toe here again, and the second point to be lined up is the pubic bone here, which is right on top of the big toe. It will be completed by the upper spine. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Definitely, it would be wrong to get the breastbone, because now her body weight would hang backward. So that is 1, 2, and 3. Thank you. and now we're going to show how to pick up our arms into position. Once we've found that individual balance, our arms are hanging loosely in front of our legs, we're spreading out the arms in front of the legs and getting our hands into position. The shoulders hanging and being not pressed down, just relaxed. We come now to the set up as a couple, the dance hold. The lady is coming towards the man and attempting to reach about centered towards his right side. So now the right sides are in contact. Now, very important is the distance between the feet. You will see there is a slight distance, so the legs are free to swing. The man's right foot now can easily move between the feet because of the set off of the bodies to the man's right side. Now we still have that vertical balance. We pick up the arms, please, into the position, and we realize that the lady's vertical balance is still there. The only thing now is she has a slight curve to the left over his right arm. And this gives the beautiful position between the two heads. Now, if you turn a little bit, thank you, and release the hold for a second. Now we are in a parallel position. You will realize they pick up the arms and the position is parallel. The moment they give the hands, it affects slightly this position between the shoulders, which he adjusts by a little turn of the center towards the lady. Another point, which to me is very important, is the position of the man's head. The man's head is forward into the direction focused where he wants to move. If he looks to the left, it affects the back again and looks totally unnatural. So that would be the direction the man looks. Okay. And that is a three-dimensional dance hold in which ballroom dancing is easy to do. And now in the second chapter, we're coming to footwork and leg actions. It is necessary to have the correct mechanics working for you to create quality movement. Now you will see that the legs have to have a free swing under my hips. Now that creates automatically the correct footwork, which starts at the toe, goes to the ball of the foot, a flat foot, and arrives at a heel. Now if I do that with moving my body weight at the same time, you will see a continuation of rolling through the feet. We do that from that side as well. So I will roll through the feet, and you will reach a point here where the back foot completes the step before I take a next step. Now when I go backward, I start by getting the whole foot, the ball of the foot, the toe. Now from here, I roll my body weight into the back foot, arriving at a central balance. And the back heel will only touch the floor when the free leg is next to my standing leg. And we start the same action here. And you will see that the moment I go to the toe, it is a little flick back of my foot, backward and forward. We have the same flicking action, backward and forward. Now this, of course, applies also to steps where I go from one toe to the next. When I'm standing up on a toe, I'm preparing on my standing leg the toe step by moving forward through the foot, and at the same time my free foot is in a straight position to be ready to take my weight. And that gives me the chance of avoiding ups and downs. That goes forward and backward. My feet are prepared to take my weight, and I roll into the toes of the feet. And when we see, for instance, a feather step and a three-step in the foxtrot, you see both of the actions together. And I will try to show that now in slow motion. We roll through the feet to create the correct foot and leg actions. Now for the three-step, we roll through the foot and we finish here. I can try now to show in slow motion a whole amalgamation of foxtrot basic just for the foot actions. And I will do just now that in slow motion. So it's the rolling of the feet which transfers my weight smoothly from foot to foot. And it has to be rolled through up to the toes of the feet. And now we see Brian and Marianne in a piece of foxtrot basics danced to music. And now we will see Brian and Marianne in a little piece of waltz basic showing the leg and foot action in the waltz. I will say now a few words about the mechanics of the legs. We have three different levels that our legs can be in. One is the base level of two long legs supporting my body. Another one is below the base level, where I am in bent knees. And the third one is when I'm elevated on my toes. Now, it's always important to go from one level to the next. You never leave out one level. So if we go from the upper position, I have to go through the base level to bend my knees, and the other way around. From the lower level, I go to the base level first before I can rise. In ballet, this is a very clear accepted technique, and we need the same technique in ballroom dancing as well. If I dance, for instance, from a promenade position, a weave in the waltz, I'm coming from an elevated position, transfer my body weight. From here, I go first to my base level before I go to the lower level. When I rise, I go first to my base level again before I go to the higher level, and so on. And now I think let's watch Brian and Marianne when they dance a little bit of waltz a little bit of Viennese waltz, and in both dances show us how the mechanics of the legs work. In the Viennese waltz, please try to keep attention to Brian's closing foot on 6. He has to leave the lower level for the bass level to be able to close properly. And here, and here. Now, in this next chapter, we're going to talk a little bit about the movements in space, the directions in the room which we have to keep. Now, the first thing is we have to think about how we move the whole body. Now, if we move forward, we're always thinking about moving the cheekbones together with my upper spine. The partner that moves backward tries to move the belly button together with the neck. Now, that keeps our spine in a straight position and nevertheless manages to move us through the room, and that works in both directions. The second thing we have to talk about is that we have to use the directions properly. When I start a swing, we have to keep the direction of the beginning of the swing well up to the end of the swing. That would, for instance, be if we think about a weave in waltz from promenade position. We would start from here, we have that direction, and we keep that direction up to the end of the swing. Now we do the second half to a promenade position. We keep the direction. Now that is very important to achieve a maximum swing and a volume in movement. We do that one more time without stop. So we have the swing direction, and could finish in the chassé. Now the same, of course, applies if we dance a foxtrot, and we do feather step, reverse turn, 3-step. And we keep the direction which we start in. And we keep the direction that we start in. And we got a maximum amount of swing. The other point which we have to talk about, of course, is the hands. Now the hands are always showing the lady the direction which we want to dance to. So my hands move with the lady. We do that in open hold so you can see it. My hands move in the same direction as my girl. I do that the other way, so you can see that from a different angle. My hands are moving with the lady. The hands are not spread out over the whole place. It's also important to know that the partner that goes backward is always approaching the new direction first. Again, show that in the foxtrot. She is approaching the new direction first. She has to stay in front of me. Now, if we do that in the quick step, you can easily see what I mean. We start with a progressive chassé to the center, and now from here my hands are showing her the direction, and as the backward part, she approaches the new direction first. I am approaching the direction first. Now there was a great legend in ballroom dancing, and his name was Benny Tolmeyer. He used to give a beautiful little hint and a little help. He said the backward dancer is doing a step. The forward dancer is swinging the body. And that, of course, was meant to keep the partnership better together. So now Mariana will swing, I will step. Now in this fourth chapter we're going to talk about a very important subject, the lowering and the rising. Now before we talk about it, we should be clear about the word lowering. What does it mean? How do we do it? What do we need it for? We need it for the initiation of a movement. That does mean through our lowering action we start our bodies to move. Now how do we do that? We increase the pressure to our standing foot, and that normal knowledge says we're bending our knees. Now if you try to do that, just bending your knees, you will realize that all of a sudden your leg muscles have to carry an awful lot of weight, and apparently that is not a free swing. What we do then is we try to push our shin bone forward with resistance and realize that we use now muscles around the knee to control our position. This is the increasing of pressure to the standing foot to create the lowering action, and this pressure will be released to be able to swing. If we are on an elevated position, we come back to the basic principle of the leg actions. That means we are from here, we have to first come back to the base level, which means the first phase of the lowering action is pushing the heels to the floor again before we come to the shin bone action. So it's a two-phase action. We go first the foot, then the leg. Of course, there are exceptions to the rules. The first being the whisk. Now you will easily see why. Can we please try the whisk? And when we go to the whisk position, you will see that from this position, we're so close in our legs that we couldn't probably lower without getting into trouble. So when we do phase one of the lowering, which means the foot pressure down, we are already on our way out of the whisk to be able to do that correct. Now we do that again, and we have the whisk, and the lowering is already bringing us out of the position. The second exception to the rule is if we go from a chassé to the quick open reverse turn. As you all know, we have two consecutive heel leads. That does mean from here we divide the two-phase lowering that we normally have on one step over two steps. On the first step, the end of the chassé, we are only lowering the foot. We are getting a non-progressive outside step, and on this foot we have the extra lowering through the shin bone. Now, showing that to this side, so you see it from a different angle, we would go slow, quick, quick, slow, with a foot lowering only, non-progressive step, extra lowering in the leg to prepare our swing and the quick open reverse turn. I will try now to explain the differences between lowering in waltz and lowering in the foxtrot. As we're using the lowering for different purposes, it apparently has to be a little different. In the waltz, we have a pendulum swing which starts at a high point, lowers, and goes up the other point, called pendulum swing. Now, the moment of lowering is apparently coming together with the acceleration of body speed. That together, the acceleration of the body speed and the lowering will create the pendulum swing. Now, Brian and Mariana will now show a little bit of waltz basic swing actions to music, please. See how the acceleration of speed and the lowering action are coming together. One end, a waltz, a waltz, a waltz, waltz, 2 you. Now, when we compare that to the lowering actions in the foxtrot, it's very evident it has to be different, because in the foxtrot we lower before a slow step. Now, the acceleration of body speed has not to be with the lowering action, because otherwise we would accelerate our body speeds before a slow. In the case of the foxtrot, though, the lowering action is there to initiate a movement, and the acceleration is at the end of the slow. In the case of the transfer from one bar to the next, and quick, quick, slow, the lowering action is there for the continuation of movement. And to give a visual example, Brian and Mariana will show some foxtrot basics where you realize that the lowering action is there for the continuity of action. Okay? So they connect the bars through the lowering actions, connecting action. Thank you. So as the chapter is called Lowering and Rising, we have to talk yet about the rising. Now, there are three different ways of rising. One is called the swing rise. Number two is called the pressure rise. Number three is called the body rise. Now, the swing rise means we have a continuous rise, or a rise which goes over a series of steps over one complete swing. That means, in actual fact, if we have a natural turn in the waltz, that the rising starts at the end of step one, which is when this foot is under the body, to the base level again, and continues on 2 and 3 before we start the lowering action again. So the swing rise is over a whole swing action. You can see that as well in the foxtrot. We do the feather step and we have a swing rise. We do a quick step basic and we have slow, quick, quick. It's a swing rise. The second chapter of rising is the pressure rise, rising over 1 foot. Very easy to see in the spin turn in the waltz. We have a pivoting action, and from here we have a pressure rise. We would have the same in an impetus. We have a heel turn and a pressure rise. And of course we would have the same in a hover corte in the waltz. We would have a pressure rise. And the third way of rising is the body rise. Now, body rise is a very, very difficult chapter, which could make another video actually. Body rise is within the body, a kind of a breathing action which gives you the feeling that you have an elevator inside your body running up and down. Now, there are, of course, steps where there is no foot rise and only body rise, which is, for instance, the foxtrot basic for the ladies. They always have a toe and a heel at the same time on the floor, and it's only the body rise which gives the character of the dance. When the ladies are doing the backward half of a turn to the right or to the left, she's having at the end of step one only body rise. Now, there are many positions where we have body rise without foot rise, but we are never having foot rise without body rise. That means that even in a normal swing rise, as a very added attraction, we have also body rise. So the rising is an automatic result of the lowering before, and as you realized, the correct usage of lowering and rising gives you a very attractive way of swing your bodies in either waltz, foxtrot, or quick step timing. So the next chapter is chapter number 5, and we deal with rotations. Now there is no dancing as a couple without rotations. Not one step is without rotation. But how do we do rotations, and what should the effect be? In a perfectly balanced couple, you will find a certain picture. Now we have 2 circles within a couple. One circle goes from her belly button to mine, the other circle goes around us, moves through her left elbow and through my left elbow, and we will find in the general visual effect that my head will always be in the little circle of the 2 belly buttons, while her head always travels on the big circle which surrounds the couple. Now we have to follow certain rules and certain laws to be able to keep that position. For instance, the natural turns. The natural turns have to be initiated by the man by a little turn of the center, starting the natural turn before the actual variation. So in case of a natural turn, I'm having a preparation step, and during the preparation step, I already start a rotation to the right. I'm not leaving the direction in the room from my body weight. I'm just turning the centers while I'm keeping the track. So I'm keeping the track, but I'm rotation into the natural turn. So we do that one more time from a different angle. I'm turning into my natural turn without leaving my track. The same, of course, applies to a natural turn in the foxtrot, which is a feather step. I'm starting here, and I'm continuing my turn. Even if we do the Viennese waltz. Now, in the Viennese waltz, it's even written in the technique that we start diagonally center, although the first step goes along line of dance. And that is because of the preceding start of the rotation. The preceding start of the rotation. So we have that in all kinds of natural turns, in all swing dances or in all dances. If we turn to the left, the so-called reverse turns, they work totally opposite because of the hold that we are having. Now I will turn only at the end of my first step if it comes to a reverse turn. The lady gets an initiation through my standing leg, and I will follow her with nearly a left shoulder lead in the beginning. The turn will then come at the end of step 1, even if it's backward. I'm lowering, and at the end of step 1, here is the turn. Now let's do the same in the foxtrot with the reverse turn. I'm having the step, and at the end of step 1 is the turn. At the end of step 1 is the turn, and at the end of step 1 is the turn. And dancing towards you, a few steps of the Viennese waltz, reverse turns. At the end of step 1, at the end of step 1 is the main turn. Now there's also a combination where we can do reverse and natural movements in one step. That is, for instance, the reverse wave in the foxtrot. Now we always have one bar to the left, one bar to the right. And that means, which we show you and I explain, the reverse turn. Turn at the end of step 1. Now the first part of the wave now, turn at the end of step 1 because it's the reverse movement. I'm now coming to a natural movement, which means during my lowering action, I'm already starting the rotation. Turn late, turn early, turn late, turn early. And that is basically the secret of how to turn to the left, how to turn to the right, and keep the position between the 2 partners. There's another very, very important detail we have to talk about because it helps us getting around each other in certain rotations. That is the pointing step. Now, whenever we have a combination of 3 steps for a turn in either the natural or the reverse turn, we need one partner, which is normally the backward partner, who is doing a pointing step in order to let the other partner pass. Now, what do I mean? When we start the natural turn, Marianne is doing one step, and from here the next step is a pointing step. Now that means the step is pointing into a direction which the body reaches later. The second idea to that is the weight transfer to that step is a little later than normal. And of course the third one is we're rising later. There is only a body rise during that. Now the reason why she's doing a pointing step is very, very clear. She is waiting for the partner to pass. Now if we would do a backward half, I would have to do the pointing step. Now the lady has that in the natural and reverse turns. On her backward half, the man is doing it on his backward half. Of course we do the same in a feather finish. I show that from this angle so you can all see what I'm talking about. Now I'm going into this step. Now there is a pointing step here. Even with my footwork toe, heel, toe, I have a pointing step to get the lady the opportunity to pass me. Watch it from the other side. The lady is passing me because I'm waiting to let her pass. Now the Viennese waltz without pointing steps is practically not existing. So we do a few natural and reverse turns to just give you an idea of the pointing steps of the backward half. The pointing step of the backward half. Da, 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 one and the other way around. I'm pointing, Marianne is pointing, I'm pointing. So far to the pointing steps. Another important feature for rotations is, of course, to lead the lady for outside movements. Rotations are basically done in the center of the body. Now, if you think of Marianne as a beautiful kebab stick, she will bring out her arm so I can show you what I mean. The spine is a stick. Now, the main fillet parts of the body are turning around that kebab stick, and that has automatically a connection to the top and to the legs. So all rotations are basically done in that area. Now, when I try to lead the lady to an outside step is always preceded by a side lead. Let's start with a feather step in the foxtrot. I'm rotating my center to create a side lead, and I'm increasing within my body this little rotation to create a feather step and the outside step. If we do, for instance, a weave in the foxtrot, I have also a side lead preceding the outside step. Side lead, outside step, side lead, outside step. A chassé to quick open reverse and quick step is exactly the same. We have the chassé. I have a side lead on the last step of the chassé in order to bring my foot to the outside of the lady. Another chapter in the rotations we have to talk about is, of course, the beautiful heel turns, every lady's favorite movement. Now, the heel turns are easy if you're not talking about heels. I'm always talking about body turns. So if Marianne does the reverse turn and the heel turn, she's doing a step back and she is rotating the fillet parts around the kebab stick. So it's a body turn which closes the feet in the end. It is a body turn. Now we do that again, and a body turn. Good. So we could show that now to you in a double reverse spin and a telemark. It's a double reverse spin and a telemark. Now, for leading the heel turn, the man must understand that in order to create the rotation for the lady, he has to give her the information that she's not allowed to move further back. So he is rising a little earlier than he normally does and gives the lady the initiative movement for closing her feet. Now, once you understand that principle of how to lead a heel turn, she can do it very easily. Now, another very important turn in this chapter is, of course, the pivots. Now, pivots are done over one foot. So we have a turn which starts on the left foot and turns with a swiveling foot. At the same time, our bodies are turning around each other. Now that means, we try to show that now to you. My main swiveling action and turning action then is on my left foot. So I reach my left foot and turn my body. From here I transfer weight and my body continues the turn. That's what the main action in pivots are. So it's a body turn combined with a foot turn. Now we shouldn't mix that up with a spin turn. A spin turn consists of a pivoting action and a turn over 2 feet. A spin turn should come to the moment where the lady has a brush step, which means through rotation and rising at the same time, I will be able to close the lady's feet. We have a pivoting action. Now comes the spin turn, which means I make the lady close her feet in the brush step. It's another form of turn. And the last piece we have to talk about in the rotations is turns from a promenade position. Now, if we would go from a promenade to reverse movements, I have to obey the same laws as before. We come from here, I let the lady pass first and rotate at the end of the first step of the action. We do that one more time. The lady goes, I let the lady pass, and I turn at the end of the step to be able to keep and maintain our position. If we would turn to the right from promenade, I would of course refer to the same principle. I would start my rotation while I'm lowering, for instance, to an open natural turn. And the open natural is a beautiful step because it leads me again to a side lead and an outside step following. So I start rotation around the lady, I have a side lead for an outside step following. Now the main thing is, if we think about natural turns, think about the word natural. The natural turn means the lady naturally moves into my arm and stays in a beautiful position. Reverse is quite the opposite. The lady is not allowed at all to do an active turn, because otherwise she would go right into my way. So she keeps her right side slightly open. That is the feeling. If we have combined steps where we do natural and reverse in the same step, we have, for instance, the beautiful movement of a chassé. If you look from here, as we do the chassé, the lady has a very strong turn to the left, while the man has a very, very little, not visible, turn to the right to be able to close our positions again. Can we do that one more time? We have that chassé movement. I turn to the right, she turns to the left. And we reach our beautiful position again at the end of the chassé. And another step where we combine natural and reverse movement is the feather finish. The feather finish is supposed to create the same end product as the feather step. The feather step being a natural movement, the feather finish being a reverse movement. So what we do, we start with that reverse movement, and by the time of the first quick, my center is initiating a little turn to the right. And not visible, but a necessary turn to the right, because that gives space for the lady. And as a last step, which is a combination of natural and reverse movements at the same time, the hover cross from promenade position. So we go from promenade position, I initiate a natural rotation from here, we arrive here, and now my feet are turning more than my center in order to prepare a step outside partner on her left side. That's what we have here. Now, as soon as I transfer the weight to my right foot from here, I'm preparing a feather finish. And here we have, again, a natural movement. So it's natural, reverse, natural, alternating, slow, natural, reverse, natural, reverse. So as you see, the chapter of rotation is quite complex, but it is very, very difficult to do and it's essential to understand how the principles of rotation work. In this next chapter, we want to talk about a phenomenon called sway. Now, where in the body is sway? Why do we use sway? Of course, we use sway for our balance control. It's absolutely essential that in a big swing we have balance, and therefore we need sway. A very simple example to that is, if you're thinking you would ride a motorbike and you are driving into a roundabout at a pretty high speed, you would automatically sway to the inside of the circle in order to keep your balance. You wouldn't have to practice that, that would happen automatically. Now this is about the same what we do when we do a swing in ballroom dancing. The sway normally takes place from the waist down. So that means if I would go to a natural turn in the waltz, and I will try to show that now from here, we go 1 and 2, here is our sway, 2, 3. If I do that very good, I should feel through the swaying action in my hips and in my pelvis that the swaying side is actually extended and not broken and not falling down. So the normal moment when I start the sway is the moment of my highest speed. That would be in the waltz at the end of 1, here. At that moment I would start my sway. In the foxtrot I would start my sway at the passing, here. Slow and quick, quick. So sway is also of course there to add color and contrasts to the dance. Sway can be most attractive if done in the right way. Now Brian and Marianne will now dance a natural turn for us so we can see how sway works properly. It starts now and we have the extension, and we will see here now in this picture that still this is a big shape, the sways from the hip and the side is still long. Can you do that please in the other direction? Now we can see Marianne's back. So the sway starts now, and we have an extension on this side. Marianne has a very long left side, it's not broken. The sway's in the hip. Thank you. Could you please do a feather step starting here and dancing into that direction? So we can see also the sway during a feather step. 1, 2, 3, and slow and a quick, quick. So that is the sway here. It has nothing to do with the broken side. It's the shape of the hips. Thank you. And maybe a few bars of Viennese waltz, because we have beautiful shapes in the Viennese waltz as well. Sway from the hips. Ready? And 1, 2, 3, 2 and 2, 3. 1 and 2, 3, 2 and 2, 3. And 2, 3, 2 and 2, 3. 1 and 2, 3. Thank you. So that is very, very easy to see. This is how sway should work. Now in this next chapter we're going to talk about promenade positions. First of all, what is a promenade position? A promenade position has a slightly V-shaped position of our hips in relation to each other in order to give us the space for the legs to move forward at the same time. If we would walk backward in this position, it would be called a fall-away position. Now why are we taking such a difficult position into our dancing? First of all, we have a contrast to the normal position that we used to dance in. And the second thing is, it's a musical expression that we could do through the promenade position. It's like an exclamation mark in a sentence. So how do we produce a promenade? We are standing in a normal position. We have a pressure rise, we have body rise, and we have a rotation to the right at the same moment. Now that produces a promenade. Basically, this is a preparation to the promenade, because the real promenade is only achieved one step later when we are ready to leave this position. Now we do that one more time, and I try to show now that we don't use sway in a promenade position. We use the pressure rise and the rotation. Now when we leave the step, we have to think about the fact that this step is a non-progressive step. It just catches our body weight for an early release and lowering action to prepare the next swing. Now there are natural variations where we go through a turn to the right into promenade position, and there are variations where we come from a turn to the left into the promenade position. They have a different entry. Now we, for instance, take the open impetus turn, which is a turn to the right. In this turn, everything we just explained applies completely. So I arrive here, I have pressure rise, body rise, rotation, promenade. If we would go to the left, the last little bit of the turn wouldn't be done by me, it would have been done by the lady. So we do for you an open telemark. So the lady turns and she completes the turn, and we arrive in promenade position. Like also in the outside change to promenade. It's the same. The lady completes the turn for the promenade. Now I think you realize that the promenade positions are positions where the lady is able to give musical expression to the couple, and we have these promenade positions as highlights of our choreographies. So a little bit I want to talk to you about how the English style has come into existence. It was a lady by the name of Phyllis Hayler who was introducing the essence of the English style. And the whole event took place in the year 1926, when at the very famous Star Championships, organized by the Star newspaper, there was a decision made between two different styles of dancing the waltz. One was called the rotary waltz, and the couples were standing right opposite each other with no space between the feet, the way we have shown you in the first chapter. And Phyllis Hayler, together with her partner Alec Miller, she chose a different kind of a hold, a slight set-off, and also a different kind of dancing. That dancing was based on the fact that the backward partner was always allowing the forward dancing partner to pass. We spoke about that when we spoke about rotations. Now, of course, it's no secret, on this Star Championship, Phyllis Hayler and Alec Miller won the waltz with this new so-called diagonal waltz. The advantages were very clear. One thing was, it was very easy from one body weight to pass the other body. And the other one, of course, is we had continuous turns, while before we had to stop with a tap to change direction of turning. All that led to the fact that we had a more clear relationship between the male and the female dance partner. In ballroom dancing today, that plays a big role. A big role is that a man is very clear about his job of leading the lady into new directions, of leading the lady to sways, to rotations, and to all kinds of shape changes. The role of the lady today is also very clear. The lady is not only following his directions, his sways, his timings, the lady is transferring the information into a very, very personal reaction. So we have, if it works out well, we have the communication of a man and a woman through the dance. I would like you now to enjoy Brian and Marianne, and they will dance for you first their waltz, and secondly a little bit of their foxtrot, so you can probably and hopefully see all the details we were talking about so far in all the chapters.
We could go the distance and find us romance. I like your persistence, your style and your stance. There's only one problem, the tiniest problem. I like to lead when I dance. Your eyes do the speaking, they talk with each glance. My willpower's creaking, I might take a chance. And though you're the charmer who could bend my armor, I like to lead.
In this final chapter, we now come to a dance which is in many respects completely different than the other four dances. The tango. The tango, first of all, has no swinging action, which makes many things be done in a different way. Coming from Argentina at the beginning of the